Module 3, the Southern Kingdom of Judah and the Babylonian Captivity. So in Module 2, we covered a couple things. We covered Solomon, who is the third of the three kings of the United Kingdom of Israel. Then we covered the split, when the kingdom splits into Israel in the north and Judah in the south. And then we spent the rest of Module 2 really looking at the northern kingdom of Israel. And we covered a lot. So in fact, we want to just review real quick as we do, just on one slide. We covered Solomon, and we also covered what God had commanded Solomon to do, which was to build him a home for the ark, that the people would no longer be nomadic. They would now have a permanent place of worship, and that's what Solomon did when he built the temple in Jerusalem. We talked about Rehoboam, who was the son of Solomon, as well as Jeroboam, who launched the revolt against Solomon, and that was, of course, what caused the nation to split into northern Israel and then into Judah. We then talked about the kings and the prophets of northern Israel, kind of looked at all of the 19 kings, how there were no righteous kings in northern Israel during the 150-year time that it was a nation. But we also looked at the prophets that God had specifically called to those kings at that time. We looked at Elijah, we looked at Elisha, and then we spent the end of Module 2 focusing on Amos and on Hosea, who were really the prophets that came and that prophesied about the end of the northern kingdom, which happened, of course, with the one of our major events. I believe it's number 9, the Assyrian Dispersion of the northern kingdom, as was prophesied. So in fact, if we look at our 12 major events really quick, and we just go over them again, by now you're probably starting to memorize them, right? The first one is the call of Abraham, followed by the birth of Isaac. Again, these are what launched the nation in the first place, followed by Joseph in Egypt, where the people grew when they were in captivity in Egypt. Then we have the Exodus, followed by when Moses gets the law on Mount Sinai. Then we have the time of the conquest of Joshua, where Joshua takes the land that God had promised him. Then we have the United Kingdom of Israel. So the 7 is the kings of Israel, Saul, David, and Solomon, followed by the kingdom splits. And then you have the Assyrian dispersion of the north, the Babylonian captivity of the south of Judah, the return to the land, and then the Messiah arrives, the arrival of Jesus of Nazareth. So these are the 12 events. In fact, the first 6 we looked at in part 1, and then we're going to look at the second 6 here in part 2, and part 2 is going to lead us right up to the arrival of Christ. But right now, here's where we're at. We're up to number 9 as we got to the Assyrian dispersion at the end of the previous module. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to rewind the timeline a little bit. We're going to focus just on the southern kingdom of Judah, and then we're going to also look at the Babylonian captivity. So as we begin this, let's just take a kind of an overview of Judah, the southern kingdom, in Unit 2.